So anybody that doesn't believe, and I'm sure there's very few, don't believe, because I didn't believe that for 35 years, I didn't believe. Never would either. And then all of a sudden these things happen. And now I had no choice. I have to believe. I wasn't looking for God. He was looking for me. And he found me. In a burning car. And that's pretty much the whole story.
Can I ask a question about the trip you made to California?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll look that up.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, here's the book, here's the book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all my research books. You have to do research for this kind of stuff. Confessions of a Public Speaker. 7 Principles of Public Speaking.
Good.
Cue cards. Don't have to do. Some of you may have already read this book. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, on Life After Death. Anybody ever read it? Okay, so you didn't read it. I did. You can get this online. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I got to meet her in 1988. And she's a wonderful lady. And I was worried. I was worried she's going to criticize what I got to say. I didn't really have. The drugs. You were on morphine, for Christ. Never. Never. My stories parallel hundreds of other people. They're not identical, but they parallel. And then I told her that the voice in the burning car, and it just came out, had no sex to it. And the moment I said that, well, never mind. And she smiled and she said, I hear that all the time. And then there was 12 of us who had to sit at San Diego State University. All 12 had died for more than 4 minutes. That was her criteria. And a guy, the second one, I was number 12. The second one, no one's allowed to meet each other head to head. Nobody. He doesn't know me, I don't know him. And he got struck by lightning in the golf course, playing golf in a storm. Smart guy. And you could tell he still had problems. He still was medically problems. He was talking about how he laid on the ground and a voice told him to lay still and the pain would go away. So I'm looking down at the guy thinking, you don't know me, I don't know him. And then he said it. He said the voice had no sex to it. And I wanted to leave now. I didn't want to go down and shake his hand or talk to him. I wanted to get the hell out of that room. A lot of these stories parallel each other. And you can either believe or disbelieve. You know. The same thing with church. Somebody has to word religion. And I'm proud to say it too. I'm all religions. Every religion there is that believes in God and our Lord Jesus Christ. I'm with them. I don't care if you're Baptist or Methodist or Catholic. I'll leave you out. As long as you believe in God and our Lord Jesus Christ, I'm a believer. I'll go along with you. Am I a born-again Christian? No. No. A born-again Christian is a person that can't sin or shouldn't sin. I sin every day. I'll say a cuss word. I'll do something. But I don't sin big. My sins are small, and they stay small, not perfect. Now listen, I never used to listen to anybody. Somebody has something to say to me, yeah, okay, whatever. If you say something to me now, I'll stop and I'll listen. And then there's a guy named Don Piper, 90 minutes in heaven. That's a long time. This guy didn't just go to heaven. He walked through the dark meadow, bright green meadow, met people who died before him. And there's quite a few more just like him. The problem with that, and the problem with writing a book, is it for money? That's the first thing I think of. Is it, you really went to heaven for 90 minutes? I don't know. Only he knows. Only he can say he did or he didn't. I would like to think he did, but that's not for me to decide. I bought the books, I must think he did. So if there's any questions or answers.
Any questions? Out of one?
You have to read. It's not school. Oh, yeah, it's school.
Did you like know anybody, like the people or the messengers that visited you? Did you recognize them, or are they just random people?
Up until the time that morbidly obese black lady leaned over in my face, I was a hardcore racist. I was born in Blue Island in the 50s. You know, being a racist, you don't be born a racist. Racism comes by how you're raised. And Blue Island was a hardcore, crime-ridden, organized crime. And I was part of it. And so I went along with organized crime. We hate black people. We hate Mexicans. We hate, that's what Chinese person. If you're not European white, you're no good. So, no, I don't. Two people told me, as I said, you only get to see him once. Doesn't mean that somebody else is going to come along.
Were you surprised? Did you, like, weren't you in shock when you saw it, or just happened and it just felt right?
The obese black lady?
No, both of them. Like, didn't it shock you, or did you just like, oh, this is just normal life, no big deal, they're just talking to me, I don't know where they came from?
Well, the obese black lady, I couldn't move, so I had to go along with it. I had no choice. I couldn't get up and walk away. I was a captive audience.
Right.
And she got about this far from my face. I mean, she was going down to kiss me, I think. And I was about ready to have a heart attack. I wasn't worried about it. Other stuff. But her only reason for being right here was to tell me, I know is why you cried. I never forget the words. I never forget the way she said it. And her head was moving like crazy. Just going back and forth. I wanted to reach out and grab her head. Don't stop. And then the lady in the cemetery. What am I doing? I'm crying like a 2-year-old. I just smashed my sunglasses up my face, cut myself. And she's in my car. She said, what am I going to do?
But you weren't shocked? Like, oh, there's this lady sitting next to me.
No, it's not I can't describe how she was sitting next to me. It's not in the physical sense. It's not like the morbidly obese black lady. She was real. She was a real person. She had a mask on. She was an employee. Not. But to me, she was. But the lady in my car in front of Pep Boys, it's not that way. Now it's, I can't describe it. I turned my head, and I had a lot of tears, I had a lot of cuts in my glasses, and all I see is like the silhouette of this lady with the antique water meter. That's what I can say, the silhouette. But her voice, and even though she's not talking, and she's not actually talking, I hear the sounds of, don't worry about us, we're fine, we're all fine. And I have to assume that meant, don't worry about Sue, she's fine. Worry about what you have to do. And at that point, I had a daughter and a son, which I still have. One's back there hiding. So I have no choice. And did I do a good job so far? I don't know. I think I did. You know, I'm still here. And there has to be a reason why I'm still here. And I have to believe it's time to tell the story. I don't care if it believes it or not. What do I care? I'm not writing books. I'm not making money. I'm just going to tell you my story. I get to wear my Dave Davis shirt. This is cool. I haven't done this since '83.
Do you think that why you had see those messengers is because you were to the other side and came back?
I don't think I...
Or that you got the second chance?
Oh, I got a
Where
second chance.
some of us don't see those messengers and we don't see
You
them.
do.
We do?
Oh, yeah.
But we just don't acknowledge
Let
them?
me tell you something. How old are you?
That's not nice.
Come on. I'm 64 years old. What am I-
Over 21.
Okay. Did you ever go to a drive-in theater?
Yeah, I've heard about him.
Did you ever go to one? Okay. Back in the late 50s, they got sued. Because what they did is they spliced into the movies a little tiny thing of popcorn or pop. And as you watch the movie, all of a sudden, man, I'm thirsty. Well, they actually got caught doing it. Your mind seen it. Your mind absorbed it through your eyes. And now you want that popcorn. I believe it's the same way with messages. I'm not special. I'm not special at all. I had a guy come to me not too long, well, a few years ago. And his son worked for me for a while, Mr. Finley. And he had cancer, and I knew it, I could see it. He had lost a lot of weight. And he come to DeMar's restaurant, I hang out my coffee. And he comes down, sits down next to me, he says, Dave, I need to talk to you. Okay, sure. And he said, I need to talk to you about the obese black man. I'm thinking, what is this all about? Well, it turned out his son had worked for me. And back then, if you worked for me, you had to hear my stories. It was part of being my employee. And he had heard my stories and relating to his father. And now his father's facing the end. I call it passing. And he had about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month and a half to go. And we sat down at a booth and talked. And he said, can you tell me about the obese black lady? I said, you want the short version or the long one? He wants the long. For about a half hour, I tell him the whole story. And he said, thank you, I appreciate it, and walked out the door. That was it. And I believe it may have helped him a little bit. And I'm going to tell you another story. You ready for this one, Lynn? I don't have my sunglasses. And this is the story that gets me every time. Every time. It won't get me this time. St. Jude's Hospital. You all know where it is. There was an 8-year-old child at St. Jude's years ago, and she had leukemia, and it was terminal. There was no doubt about it. It was terminal. And the parents were staying down there with her. That's what they do. Nearby. In the early evening, they were called to come to their daughter's room, and that could mean it was time. And they rushed to the daughter's room, and the daughter was propped up in the bed, and her eyes were open, and they were doing things to her. And the daughter turned to her mother and said, Mom, they were here, my new friends. And the mother says, well, who's your new friends? I may make up the name, Linda and Alice. And the mother said, well, that's nice, honey. Well, what do your new friends do? I don't know, Mom, they left, they'll come back and get me. And they stabilized her, and the parents left. That same evening, they were alerted to come back to the room. This time when they got to the room, the daughter was laying flat on the bed, and the machines were being disconnected. Obviously, it's time. And the daughter turned her head toward her mom, eyes half open. And she said, Mom, they're here. I can go now. And she left. I believe. Her friends came to get her. That's why I call the message. And that's my last story. Any more questions?
Have you ever seen the bio channel? I think it's on Saturday night about out-of-life experiences and stuff, about people dying.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several.
I've seen one.
Yeah, but the lady was on the operating table and she lost. I don't know if she was giving childbirth, whatever. She lost consciousness. She was dead, and she saw the body down, and everybody was on the body. That was one of the stories I remember. And a couple other one was a bad guy, similar to yourself as far as he was kind of a criminal thing. And he died. And I don't know if it was a burn thing, but it was the same thing. They actually took him down. What I would say, he's going down to hell. And some voice said, "It's not time," and then he came back and he changed his life around. I remember
But
that.
see, you just said it right there. It's not time.
Yeah.
They all correlate.
Yeah.
It's not me. I mean, I'm just a person. I had to tell another person one time. I could tell where it was going, you know. And he said, Dave, can you pray for me? This is probably about 5 years ago. I said, well, yeah, what's wrong? And he was sick. And I don't think it was terminal, he was just really sick. And I said, be more than happy to. He said, put your hand on me. Yeah, sure. I put my hand on his shoulder. Yeah. Then I figured it out. He thought I had powers. He thought I was special. And I stopped. I pulled my hand back. And I told him, I said, well, I got news for you. I can't make any of your sickness go away. I can't make you better. I'm a mortal human being. I'm a burn victim. I'm just a guy. I said, but I can pray for you. And I'll do that. I do it on Facebook all the time. People send me private messages, you know, keep praying for me, Dave, you won't have it. Did it in Indiana Speedway last year. Dave, you want to pray? Sure, let's go for it. Doesn't bother me.